Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to another book review from me, your host, Logan Albright. Today I'm talking about an author that I've never read before until last week when I read a collection of short stories about the ocean, and I mentioned that my favorite short story in that collection was called The Tunnel by Doris Lessing. I had never read Doris Lessing, so I thought I would check out some of her other work. She has been awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. She's written like 50 novels or something, a huge amount of books, and I was looking through what was available from her, and I saw this little collection called On Cats, and I love cats, so I thought I'd pick it up. It's very short, it's very small, and I thought I would see what she had to say about cats. Now, first, a little bit about me and my relationship with cats over the years. I always grew up with both cats and dogs in my household as a child, and I've always loved cats in particular. I find them very interesting creatures. They're funny, and they're adorable, and they're sweet. They're proud. They can be cruel. They can be standoffish. But I find that they have such personality and so many human traits and characteristics. And psychologists and animal behavior people will say you're not supposed to anthropomorphize animals and give them human characteristics, but it's really hard not to when you've lived your whole life around them, and there's such clear reflections of human emotions in their faces and their behaviors. I mean, one of the things I always say that I like about cats is they're simultaneously silly and dignified. They have a real sense of pride and a real sense of not wanting to be embarrassed and wanting to show themselves off in a good light. And you can see, everyone who's owned a cat has seen a cat embarrassed and trying to pretend that it didn't fall when it just did, because they think highly of themselves. And I find them very, very charming animals, and I love them. And so I thought I'd read what Doris Lessing had to say about them. This is a collection of 3 books, little small books that she wrote over the years, I think starting in like the early 90s and ending in or late 80s and ending in about 2002. The 3 books are called Particularly Cats, Rufus the Survivor, and The Old Age of El Magnifico. They're basically a little kind of an autobiography of the author in terms of her relationship with cats over the years. It's unclear how much of this is fiction and how much of it is nonfiction. I think most of it is probably nonfiction, but there's such detail over such a long period of time that surely a lot of it can't have been exactly remembered and must have been added in as little fictional additions. I'm sure that's the case, but it doesn't really matter. I found the book really interesting and really charming, and shows the author has a great understanding of cats and a great love of cats. But I will caution the reader that it starts off, in particular, the first half of it is fairly gruesome and brutal. And if you are an animal lover, you may have a hard time stomaching some of it, as I did. She grew up in Africa before moving to England, and she lived on a farm, and there were a lot of wild cats about and a lot of, farm cats about. And there was the grim necessity of farm life required some tough decisions to be made sometimes. And the book basically opens with them having to kill a bunch of cats that were becoming too numerous to feed or take care of with a pistol. And it's very upsetting. And it doesn't really get better from there on. There's like lots of very vivid accounts of cats dying, being killed, being euthanized. And then like surgeries, and later it talks about taking them to the vet and having to do various things to them, which is really, really sad and really upsetting. But I guess that's sort of the brutal reality of farm life in a wild place where there's lots of, wild animals, and there are venomous snakes that are getting the cats all the time. And that was a little hard to take. So if you're sensitive to that sort of thing, I would caution you against this. But once you get through about the first half of the book, it kind of levels off a little bit, although there's still a lot of really sad parts. One of the things that I find so tragic about it is that she talks about how, cats can't understand when you have to do something to them for their own good and take them to the vet and get them neutered. Or she really is, has ambivalence about getting cats neutered. She thinks it's a horrible thing to have to do to an animal, but she feels like it's necessary to do anyway, and feels great guilt about it. And she's talks about her cat's expression when she takes them home, and she's they look at her like, I trusted you and you did this to me. How could you have done this to me? How could you have betrayed me this way? And there's another instance where one of her cats gets a cancerous tumor on its shoulder, and she has to cut off the leg of the cat at the vet. The vet has to do an operation and remove the leg. And the cat is then a 3-legged cat, and the cat doesn't understand that you saved its life. It thinks that you just mutilated it for no reason, and that kind of damaging of the relationship is so heartbreaking, because you want your animals to trust you. You want them to feel like you're their friend and will take care of them, and to have them feel that sense of betrayal is really upsetting. So there's a lot of really dark and difficult passages in this book, but I don't want to make it sound like it's all that way, because there's also great affection and great love and great understanding of what cats are like. And she talks about the different personalities of her different cats and their little social hierarchies and the games they play with each other. For a long time, she had a gray cat and a black cat, and the gray cat was sort of older and the black cat was new, as seen as an interloper, and that kind of relationship struggle between them where they tried to find a way to live with each other and tried to assert dominance or build up little hierarchies in certain ways, and then the ways that they would, go out and flirt with the neighborhood cats and try to come up with, try to mate with the neighborhood cats before they got neutered, that sort of thing. It's really charming, and it's funny how they have such complex little social lives, and are like the gray cat is very antisocial and doesn't like any other cats, and then at one point it finds another cat that it really likes, and she's like, why do you like this cat so much? You've hated every other cat in your entire life, and then all of a sudden you decided that this cat you like. What's the difference? And it's just such a mystery. So I don't have too much more to say about it. I guess it's a pretty short book, but if you are an animal lover, or particularly a cat lover, and you find their little quirky personalities interesting and finding someone who really understands them interesting, I certainly would recommend this book. If you can get past the kind of animal death that takes place in it. By the way, I wanted to say this last video and I forgot. I really think it's stupid the way that people will censor their language on YouTube, and I guess they do it for the algorithm, but I refuse to do it. So if I'm saying the cats are killed, I'm going to say the cats are killed. I'm not going to say unalived or anything like that. I think it's really dumb, and I refuse to do it. And if it costs me views, so be it, because it's childish. That's not how we talk on this channel. But she does talk about having one of her friends as a scientist, and the scientist is like, well, officially cats are not capable of this kind of thought or this kind of emotion, or they don't sense the passage of time. But then when he's not speaking in his official capacity, he'll be like, oh, it's so sweet. My cat always waits for me in the window when I'm away and waits for me to come home. If they don't have a sense of the passage of time, how is it waiting for you? It doesn't really make sense. And she's saying that people who have lived with cats and grown up with cats and been around them their whole lives have a much better sense of what they're actually capable of than the people who officially study them for a living. One of my favorite facts that I learned years ago is that there's 1 million academic studies on dog behavior and how dogs are. They're in every journal. They're all over the place, and there's very few of them on cats. And the reason there's very few of them on cats is that cats refuse to cooperate with the investigators, and they won't do as they're told, and they won't put up with the experiment. They'll just ignore it or leave or do something. And I find that that's one of the things I really love about them, is that stubbornness, that unwillingness to be told what to do. That some people will say you can't train a cat like you can train a dog, therefore they're not as smart. I think it shows that they're smarter. It's pretty smart not to let yourself be trained. So I enjoy that, and I think it's really funny that they refuse to be experimented on. It's pretty cool. So anyway, that's Doris Lessing on cats. I really like her as an author. I think her prose is very, very nice, very well written, very considered. I have not yet read any of her novels, but I have read a short story that I loved, and I have read this, which I liked. So if you are a Doris Lessing fan, let me know in the comments, and let me know what other books of hers I should read. In the meantime, I will be back again next week with another book. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it, click the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, leave comments down below talking about cats and other books about cats and other books by Doris Lessing. It'd be all nice to hear. And check back every Wednesday for another upload. Until then, I've been your host, Logan Albright. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.